Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, I wanted to do a quick desk and office tour of my current setup for work and music. Let's get right into it. So, for the desk itself, I went with the Uplift V2 desk frame in their industrial metallic color. When I started dreaming up my future home office, a standing desk was a must-have, and after a lot of research, I landed on the Uplift. I paid around $500 for the frame, which is certainly not the cheapest option, but standing at 6'4", I really needed something super stable, and this frame has not disappointed. As you'll soon see, I have a ton of weight on my desk, and the frame motors have never given me any trouble. Where I was able to save some money was using my own desktop. This wood frame is actually a birch butcher block countertop that I picked up from Home Depot for around $200. The original piece was 74 inches wide and 40 inches deep. I used a circular saw to cut off 10 inches from the depth, making the total desk depth 30 inches. I added these small IKEA legs to the cutoff portion to make this monitor shelf that runs the full width of the desk and allows for a lot of extra utility and storage. The butcher block came unfinished, but after a few rounds of sanding, some walnut stain, and a wipe-on poly top coat, I'm really happy with how it came out. I'll put links in the description for everything that I used to make the desk. Now moving on to the display. I have a 38-inch Dell ultra-wide monitor which attaches to the main portion of my desk with an Amazon Basics monitor arm. This stand is very strong and allows me to position the monitor at pretty much any height or angle that I want. I always used dual monitor setups in the past, but I'm really loving this ultra-wide life. At work, I tile 3 panes vertically across, which allows me to, for example, have my email inbox, a spreadsheet, and a separate browser window open at all times, so I don't have to flip between open windows. On the top of the desk itself, I have this massive black mouse pad, which was around $16 on Amazon. I'm currently using the Logitech MX Keys keyboard and the Logitech vertical mouse. Now, pretty much every other desk setup tour I've ever seen on YouTube uses some version of the MX Master mouse, and I tried it, and it's great, but this vertical mouse has alleviated all of the wrist pain I was suffering from, which makes the long days at my desk just a little bit easier. I also have a cheap wireless charging phone stand, which, to be honest, is pretty slow, but it does the job and it keeps my phone viewable at a glance, which is really all I need. The only other peripheral I keep on the desk is this TourBox Neo Creative Controller, which I use to speed up my video and photo editing process. I'm someone who would much rather turn a physical knob to affect parameters versus using a mouse, so this little box has helped me bring that analog feel back to software editing. By moving the keyboard out of the way, I can quickly make room for my MIDI controller, which is a Novation Launch Key 37. I primarily use Ableton for music and keep this controller always plugged in so it's ready to go at a moment's notice. You'll hopefully recognize the theme of my desk is that everything is always plugged in and ready to go, but can easily be pushed out of the way to help things feel a little less cluttered. Now, back up on the shelf, my primary laptop sits on this small vertical stand behind the monitor. Currently, I'm using an M1 MacBook Pro for work, and at night, I switch to my personal Dell XPS 13. I'm able to quickly transition between the two by swapping a single Thunderbolt cable that connects to the CalDigit T9 Plus dock. This dock has been an absolute game changer for me, as in the past, I was dealing with random USB dropouts from other docks that were lower powered. So frustrating. I've had no such issues with this CalDigit, and it accommodates all the gear that you see here without breaking a sweat. Right underneath the dock is my audio interface, which is the Antelope Discrete 4 Synergy Core. I'll talk more about why I chose this interface in a bit, but it does the trick for my small setup with 4 inputs, stereo output, and 4 independent headphone mixes. I'm a musician, so my home office doubles as a recording setup, so having a solid and reliable audio interface with enough ins and outs to make everything work is crucial. Speaking of outputs, my speakers are the IK Multimedia iLoud MTMs. Let me just say, I love these speakers. In my old room, I had a pair of the Mackie HR824s, which I also loved, but they were huge and took up a ton of real estate on my desk. These monitors are a quarter the size without giving up much in terms of sound quality and bass. These monitors come with their own reference microphone to tune them to your specific room. This is a standout feature if you work in a less than ideal acoustic environment, which admittedly most of us do. While I've spent a lot of time treating my room with DIY sound absorption panels, at the end of the day, I'm still in a shed, so this unique built-in tuning ability was a real selling point for these speakers. If you're interested in how I converted this ordinary garden shed into my dream home office, I've got a video about that right here. I have 2 microphones permanently wired to the interface. The first is the Antelope Verge, which is their small diaphragm modeling condenser microphone. I have this mounted to the desk via the InnoGear microphone arm, and I use this as my main microphone for video conferencing. Plus, it doubles as a great instrument mic for acoustic guitar. The other microphone is the Antelope Edge Solo, which is their large diaphragm modeling microphone. This one usually stays tucked behind my monitor and only comes out for recording vocals and voiceovers. Both of these microphones work in combination with the software running on the Antelope interface, so all the microphone modeling and the vocal chain effects that I use happen via DSP in the interface before hitting the computer, which allows me to use all of the modeling, EQ, and compression in any software without use of separate plugins. This has really sped up my process by being able to track mix-ready vocals. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in seeing a review of the whole Antelope audio system. Next, I want to talk about the cameras that I use for video conferencing. But before I do, if you're enjoying this video, go ahead and click that like button to let YouTube know that this is good content. Now, I have two cameras. My main camera is this Sony RX100 Mark III, which is connected via HDMI to an Elgato Camlink 4K. This camera attaches to the monitor mount via a Magic Arm. I also have an older Logitech C920 webcam, which is just used as a backup and for testing different webcast software. On the left side of my desk, I have the Viozin 6-in-1 desktop stand, which holds my secondary microphone, a small key light, another laptop, and an iPad. I want to say a quick shout out to Caleb from DSLR Video Shooter for introducing me to the Viozin. The laptop and iPad are both used for my work producing live stream events. The laptop to monitor the attendee side of streams or push slide content, and the iPad I use to play music. I typically set up another MacBook on my desk as well for events, so it's nice to have these items up off the desk so I have enough space for everything. This light is a pretty cheap bicolor LED panel that came with the stand. I don't use it that often, but it's nice in a pinch to have something other than overhead lighting on those rare rainy days here in Southern California. I also have a small power strip clamped to the shelf that allows me easy access to power up any additional accessories that don't have a permanent home on my desk. Rounding out the top portion of the desk, sitting directly below my monitor, is a Stream Deck Mini, which I typically use to queue up scene changes and video playback in either OBS or Wirecast. And next to that is an old Android phone, which I primarily use as a clock. I'm using the Zen Flip Clock app, which looks great, and also includes a stopwatch and Pomodoro timer, which I find very useful when I need some help staying focused and on task. Now let's get underneath the desk where I have a few more items of note. The first is this Hosa patch bay. I have cables running from it back to my audio interface, and I use it as a place to plug in my headphones as well as patch in my guitar pedal board via two 1/4-inch cables. I also have a small USB extension mounted over here, which I use for my pedal board as well. There's a dual headphone hanger with my two sets of headphones on it, and then a Cradlepoint router which runs all the networking for this shed. This router is unique because it has a 4G Verizon SIM card in it, which will automatically fail over to if my main fiber connection is interrupted, which is mandatory for the type of work that I do. This is also why my whole desk is powered by this battery backup, which can keep everything that you see running here for about 40 minutes should I lose power for any reason. Also underneath the desk are a few mounted power strips and 4 wire cable trays to keep everything tidy. I'll link to these cable trays below because they were cheap and they're an absolute dream to use. I'm a big fan of clean cable management, but I change things so often that I don't usually have the patience to wire everything in the best way possible. With these large, wide trays, I can toss all the excess cable in here quickly and it still looks great from afar. And that's it for the desk. Let's quickly check out the rest of the office. For my chair, I'm currently using the Steelcase Leap V2. I was able to find one cheap locally from an office liquidator, and it's made a huge difference in the lower back pain I was suffering from when I first started working from home. If you're spending a lot of time sitting at a desk, like a lot of us are, I highly recommend you invest well in a good chair. You'll be glad you did. Across from my desk is this white Yukon tool chest from Harbor Freight. I got this one because it's only 18 inches deep, unlike the typical Husky models, which are all 24 inches. In a very small space like mine, every little bit helps. I keep all of my guitar, camera, and computer cables and accessories in the drawers, and I love that everything has its own space. I got some cheap drawer organizers off eBay to help keep things clean inside. Flanking the tool chest are these two small IKEA bookshelves which serve as additional storage for larger items. On each wall, I've mounted a long board, which I then mounted these Hercules guitar wall hangers to. In total, I have 6 hangers, so I can keep all my guitars up and off the ground. I built these 7 acoustic absorption panels with 4-inch thick Rockwool insulation that was left over from insulating my office. And they've made a huge difference in creating a space that is suitable for recording vocals in. I wrapped one of the panels with an LED strip light and put additional LED strips behind and underneath my desk. While I'm not a huge fan of RGB lighting in my work setup, I have found it to be really nice to be able to turn these lights on at night to change the vibe of the room. Listen, I'm new on YouTube, so if you found this video helpful or interesting, I'd really appreciate if you hit that like button and subscribe if you're interested in more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.